What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Got a bit of an interesting one for you today. I want to tell you about the time I had a coworker pull a knife on me on the job site. And I want to tell this story for a reason. I think there is an extremely important life lesson that can be learned from what went down and how I reacted to the situation. So let's get into it. This happened to me about 8 or 9 years ago at my very first welding job. I had been with this company for about a year. This was up in Tallahassee, Florida, right? My very first welding job, I was green as shit. I was cutting my teeth in the industry, but I was learning, right? I was around a couple good guys. They taught me a lot. So to get to the story, I had been with the company for about a year at this point, and they brought on a new guy. And this guy's name was Eric. Now, Eric didn't have any experience, but he knew the owner of the company's son, and that's essentially how he got the job, right? The son of the owner stuck his neck out for him and said, hey, I know this guy, he needs a job. So the owner helped him out, brought him on. And since me and Eric were roughly the same age, and I was still pretty new, but I'd been around enough to know what I was doing, I got tasked with showing Eric the ropes, getting him up to speed, and teaching him what I knew. And that was fine, right? I was happy to do so. I got to know Eric a little bit, and in the beginning, me and him really hit it off. Now, it did not take me very long to realize that Eric had some fucking screws loose. I don't know if this dude was bipolar, manic depressive, or what diagnosable mental illness he had, but he had something. So anyways, let's get to it, right? The day this all went down, myself, Eric, and 3 other co-workers, one of them being the owner's son, we were out at Florida State University on campus getting ready to install some handrails that we had built. And come to find out, by this point, Eric had been working with us for a couple months, so he knew how to weld a little bit. He knew a little bit about fabrication, and he was ready to jump ship to go get a different job for a little bit more money, probably another $1. And anyway, the owner's son found out that Eric, the guy who he had stuck his neck out for to get him this job, was basically saying, fuck this job, I'm jumping ship to go get another $1. Now, the owner's son, he thought that was pretty whack, right? He didn't think it was that cool. So I'm assuming, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm assuming the owner's son had contacted the owner and let him know. And the owner wasn't happy about that either, right? And somehow word gets back to Eric that everybody knows what his fucking plan is and nobody's happy about it. Now me, I'm indifferent. I don't really give a shit what this guy does. I'm just there doing my job. It's Friday afternoon at this point. I'm thinking about the weekend. And you guys got to remember, right? I said Eric was manic depressive, bipolar. So during that day leading up to this incident, he was on like a manic high. He was super just like jovial and high energy and like, yeah, I'm so fucking happy. I'm going to get a new job, blah, 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 all this bullshit. And so we eat lunch. And after lunch, I guess word gets back to Eric that cat's out of the bag. The owner and everybody knows what he's doing. And for whatever reason, Eric gets it in his head that I'm the guy that told the boss what's going on. When in reality, I didn't say shit to nobody, right? I'm just doing my job. So we're core drilling these holes, which if you don't know, core drill is basically just a process. It's a big water-cooled drill. You hook a hose up to it and you drive it down into the concrete and it pulls out a big concrete cylinder, which you place your handrails in and set it in concrete, right? Pretty simple. So we got about 200 feet of holes laid out that need to be drilled. And there's 3 guys running core drills. I'm in the back, Eric's in the middle, some other dudes in front of him. And so now this is after lunch, right? And Eric has switched from being on a manic high to just being all like, someone's telling on me, all this like whatever the fuck you call that, I don't know. So anyways, I'm drilling my hole and he's drilling the hole directly in front of me. And by the time I'm done, he's still working on his. So I say, hey, Eric, do me a favor, jump a few holes ahead so that way I'm not waiting on you and we can all just kind of progress evenly without holding each other up. And he's muttering and sputtering and saying all this bullshit under his breath. And I'm just like, whatever, I kind of let that shit just roll off my back. But then he says something, right? I hear him, he's up there, he's talking shit, but I don't know why. He says to me,
snitches get stitches,
right, is what he fucking says to me, thinking that I snitched on him when I didn't. And I'm just like, okay, he's starting to irritate me a little bit with this bullshit. But I let it slide. And I'm drilling my holes. And I don't even remember exactly what was said. This was a long time ago. But he said something else, and it fucking set me off. And I really laid into this dude verbally. I just went up to him, and I said, fuck you. I called him a faggot. I said everything that you're not supposed to say to somebody, right? Because I was young. Maybe I was a little bit immature, whatever. And I remember after I said all that to him, I said, you're fucking crazy. And I didn't mean it in the sense like, man, that dude's crazy, like a good thing or a compliment in any way. I meant it like you have fucking mental problems and you got to screw loose. And that set Eric off, right? He stood up, and this dude on that particular day, he had like a 7-inch fillet knife on his hip. And he fucking took that knife off his hip, and he comes up to me, puts it right up to my throat. He said, I'll fucking show you, crazy. And for like a half second, I had the thought in my head like, damn, this dude is about to slice my fucking throat. But for whatever reason, I mean, all this shit happens so fast, you don't even really have time to think. The words that came out of my mouth while he had that knife up to my throat, I said, you ain't gonna do shit, bitch. And he didn't do shit. He backed away. And you guys, I'm getting to the important lesson here. I was enraged, right? I was seeing fucking red. So the second he stepped away, I took a step back. Now you guys let's take the situation, the context of the situation, right? This is the middle of a Friday afternoon, heart of Florida State University campus. There are people everywhere. And I had 3 of my coworkers with me, right? There was 5 of us on the job site. So I take a step back. He takes a step back. I think he's starting to realize, man, what the fuck did I just do, right? Because he's crazy. He has no control over his emotions. And I say out loud to my coworkers, do y'all see what the fuck just happened? And for whatever reason, I still don't know to this day, no one was like, oh yeah, I seen that. That was fucked up, right? I know these guys saw what happened. They know what happened. But they're just kind of like trying to stay out of it, right? And I'm thinking, I want to pick a fucking piece of concrete up and just bash this dude's head in. I want to start swinging on him. But I'm like, Steven, just keep your cool, right? So, and then the owner's son come over. Oh yeah, well, the details are a little blurry. But anyways, what ends up happening is I say something to the extent of, y'all better get this dude the fuck out of here because something's about to happen. Like something real bad's going to happen. So they call the shop we work at. And what ends up happening is they send a guy from the shop, one of the architects or whatever, this dude, Chad. They send him to the job site and they take me away. So they let Eric stay on the job site and finish up the day. I hop in Chad's truck. He's going to drive me back to the shop to grab my truck where it's parked at. So I hop in Chad's truck. I'm like, I'm still fucking fuming. I'm so pissed off. And Chad pulls out a big bottle of Grey Goose out the back seat. And he's like, here, man, take a fucking hit off of this. So me and Chad, we're swigging the Grey Goose. We drive back to the shop. I hop in my truck and I drive home. This Friday, go about the weekend. I'm so pissed, man. I want to drive to this guy's house. I want to confront him. I wanted to kill this guy. Okay, so Monday morning comes, right? And I wasn't taking any chances. So Monday morning, I took my pistol, I put it in my waistline, and I walk into work. And I remember distinctly that Monday morning, as I park my truck and I'm walking towards the shop, here comes Eric walking out towards his vehicle in the parking lot, and we cross each other. And I'm mad dogging the fuck out of him. I don't say nothing. I'm just mad dogging him. What the motherfucker? So anyways, I walk into work, and he comes walking back in a few minutes later, and then he goes into the office, right? And he's talking to the dudes up there, and I'm just going about my business. And then they call me into the office, and they're like, Steven, so what happened on Friday? I'm like, fucking dude pulled a knife on me. You know what? That's what happened. And they're like, oh, well, he said you were threatening his life and all this, blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, dude, that dude's full of shit. You guys know that. So basically what ended up happening is they fired him on the spot. He went away. I never saw him again. And I kept my job and I kept working there for another year or so until I ended up moving away from Tallahassee. All right, now I say all that to say this. You guys, it is extremely important to have control over your emotions. Now, I'm sure when you hear that story, you probably think to yourself, oh, well, if someone pulled a knife on me, I would have fucking done this and that and whatever, right? The reality is you don't know how you're going to react in a situation like that until you're in the middle of it. And these things happen extremely fast. But as I look back on it and reflect, I realize that I made the right choice by not assaulting him, by not escalating the situation, but by simply just taking a step back and saying someone needs to be removed from this situation. Because in all reality, things could have gone extremely sideways. Either I could have gotten fucking stabbed, I could have been arrested, I could have lost my job, and any one of those things could have certainly, and most certainly would have, altered the course of my life, and probably in a negative way. So guys, in life, in the job, wherever, you can't let other people's emotional outbursts dictate your response. Now, don't get me wrong, if somebody's threatening you physically, you certainly need to protect yourself and do what's necessary to keep someone from bringing harm onto you or to others. But I guess for whatever reason, I knew this dude was a bitch. He wasn't going to do shit. And that, and that's how it played out. But, it really highlights that just in a moment, the trajectory of your entire life can change. And when emotions are running high, it just amplifies these situations. So, really, really be mindful of how you react to certain situations. In life, our emotions oftentimes dictate our response to situations. But you guys, it's almost never in your best interest to respond emotionally. You need to think about things logically, and you really need to consider the consequences of your actions. So for me, luckily everything worked out all right, and it just kind of makes for something funny to look back on and think about. But that's it. So to summarize, just make good decisions, guys. There are consequences for your actions, even if your actions are going to be justified in your mind or in the mind of the law or whoever. You never know. It's a crazy world. You never know how things are going to play out in court. You never know who's going to lie about what. You just don't know. So protect yourself at all costs. But, don't operate from your emotions. And more than likely, you'll end up making the right decision. So, with that being said, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time.